program is rated TVMA. This program contains topics and viewpoints from metaphysical professionals. Topics, conversations, insights, and experiences are meant for a mature adult audience and may not be suitable for younger viewers. All insights, experiences, and conversations contained in this show are meant as informational. Always consult either legal or medical professionals when needed. Viewer discretion is advised. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Terra Turas. Joining me, as always, are our other guest panel members. I've got so much going on. It's not even funny sometimes. I sit here and I laugh and I joke and everybody's looking at me like I've got a couple of different things going on. It's trying to run all this software all at one time. Makes me laugh, makes me giggle, makes me go insane. But on my left, and I am correcting her photograph and her picture even as we talk. On my left is Heather Lynn. Heather, say hi. Everybody knows you're there.
Hi.
On my right is Reverend Pat Beers. Say hi, Pat.
Hello, everybody.
There you go. Now, this evening, we had a very special lady. Tammy Manzo was on a while ago, and she was talking about the shift in energy and everything that was going on around that. And I wanted, thankfully, she agreed to come back and to be able to talk to us, because the next thing that is coming up is Mercury Retrograde. And that's going to be a real jolt, if I'm not mistaken, to a lot of people. So if you would, everybody, say good evening to Tammy. Tammy, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, Tammy.
Hi, guys.
See, everything's starting to look decent now. I'm happy with that. So, Tammy, tell me, if you would, we've gone from an extended period of time to where nothing was in retrograde, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And now Mercury is going to go into retrograde.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be a big jolt for a lot of people?
Yeah, it's going to be like a big, somebody threw on the brake. And all the little trains, all the little cars connected to the train is going to kind of go, whoa, wait a minute. So, there's going to be like an energetic wobble. Everything that's been used to like speeding along and moving along is going to like hit some speed bumps at first. And then it'll be, full-blown retrograde, like, what's happening here? And then the deja vu period afterwards where it catches up, and then it's like we do things over again, and we take the new knowledge in and put it into our lives. So it's like recreating a new process after it all clears out.
It's the one thing that, and I know that I felt it, a lot of people have felt it, that, as you mentioned the last time that you were on, everything being in direct sequence, all of the planets moving in a direct format, brings about that feeling of a newness, a happiness, a calm, but energetic. like seriously energetic about everything that's going on. So it dawned on me, and you had mentioned the last time, that when Mercury goes back into retrograde, like you say, it's going to put the brakes on. What are some of the side effects that people are going to feel during this period
Well,
of time?
during the retrograde time, it actually stationed yesterday, so that means it actually hit that point where um, it doesn't actually stop in its orbit, but it appears to stop in its orbit as the Earth starts to catch up to it a little bit. So it was like stationary, and that is like the break went on. It was yesterday. So all kind of things happen. I don't know if stuff happened for you, but I had clients starting to cancel and things I forgot to do. Like the whole day, it was, uh-oh, what's going on? Mercury is everything with your brain and learning, communicating, buying and selling, signing contracts, traveling. So any of those things are affected
Now
by
this
that energy.
this started yesterday.
Yeah, it's stationed and it's starting to slow down. Today it's slowing down. Every day it slows down a little bit more until the actual retrograde date is March 5th, when the Earth will actually pass it up and it will appear to be going backwards. So from now until March 5th, we've got that slow down, and then March 5th to the 26th, it's like a quicksand time. Like, okay, we're going to quicksand.
Well, let me ask you a very odd question.
Okay.
Typically, I don't get political because I grew up in that stage where you don't ask somebody three things. You don't ask them what their politics are, you don't ask them how much money they make, and you don't ask them if they're religious.
Yes.
But in this, if I'm not mistaken, Bernie Sanders announced his running for president in 2020 yesterday.
Uh-huh.
How would that affect what he's doing? How would it affect
Yeah.
his coming out message, so to speak?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because there's been studies, not on the Mercury retrograde, but on the moon void of course. And if you announce your candidacy in the moon void of course, you will lose. There's a study out there that goes back to 1900s, and any candidate that announced during the moon void of course time was not elected. And I was trying really hard to find when Hillary had announced her thing, back when she was running. And the problem was, with Twitter now and everything, when's the formal announcement actually made? When's the actual time? Trying to track down the actual time. Would you actually know the actual time that he made his announcement?
That I don't, because it was on the news and it's hard to track exactly when he did it because I don't know if he did it in a direct public fashion or not.
Right. Because back in the old days, they'd have that press conference, and that could be like the official time. Okay, breaking news, here's the press conference, and, the person is there making that announcement. Let me grab my my moon calendar here. Let me see if the moon was void of course yesterday at all.
Because that one just struck me as an oddity, and especially since we are going to a retrograde kind of pattern, how would that affect him? How would that
You
really
know,
bring everything across?
Man, the moon went void of course yesterday, 8:51 a.m. Eastern time. And it was void of course until today. Actually, still void of course now until 8:52 p.m. So, um, I guess we'll see if that theory holds water. Then, according to that theory, because the void of course is when the moon is not making any connections to all the other planets around it. So it's kind of like a black hole.
Okay.
It's energetic, satellite it's out there. And when you start anything during that time or you make an announcement, it kind of goes into the black hole. And let me tell you, if you ever track these, I can tell when I start working stuff or trying to contact people or people start canceling or something. I'll look at my calendar and go, oh man, it's void of course right now. There's not, it's like, don't start anything now because it all goes down into the redo pile.
Wow.
That make any sense?
It makes an awful lot of sense because even though I don't know, and again, I'm when it comes to astrology, I am
Yeah.
like the worst newbie on the planet. I'm glad that I know my own sign, and it's a Gemini. Outside of that, I couldn't tell you anything. I learned the hard way about Mercury retrograde, like a lot of people probably did. It's Mercury retrograde. And after midlife, I'm 50. And after you stumble for about 15 years wondering why certain periods of time communications just all are in the toilet, and then you hear Mercury retrograde and you realize that there is an absolute connection between the two, you go, maybe I should pay attention to this. But outside of that, when you're talking about anything else astrological, I'm sitting here going, okay.
And this is really one of the only things we need to know, really, is Mercury retrograde, because when you're in the business of what we do, when you speak to people or, do readings, or you're on the internet, or you're, connecting with clients through some kind of technology, we really need to know, like, wow, what's happening? Why isn't my computer booting up today? Why isn't my email not working? Why aren't people contacting me back?
Mm-hmm. Well, ladies, you're sitting there. Don't be shy. If you feel a need to chime in and say something. I'm sitting here and I'm trying to massage more of the software to get things to look nice. In the chat room tonight, we've got a couple of people just to stop and say hi. And I see that there are some other people that are there. If you have questions, type your questions out, either for anyone here, for Heather, Pat, myself, or for Tammy. But this evening I see Kathy, that you were talking about earlier, Pat. Kathy is here. My wife, Shelley, who is helping moderate the chat room, is here this evening. And Melody Loving.
Good.
Oh, yeah. Everybody loves Melody.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Tammy?
Tammy. Sorry.
Go ahead, Pat.
When I listen to a local radio station, and he comes on at 10 o'clock, and I think it was probably about 10:30 that he said it had just come over the wire, because he was kind of shocked.
Oh, okay. The Bernie Sanders
in the morning, I think that he made the formal announcement.
Okay. I think he hit that void of course time. Yeah. So we'll have to watch and see. Yeah.
He's raised lots of money in a real short period of time.
And, I wonder if something will happen where maybe his health won't, you know what I mean? Like maybe his health will take it out. You never know exactly what will happen between now and then.
He would be the oldest president ever elected. Because he's
Seriously?
70-something now. Yeah, he's 70-something now.
Wow. Somebody, and I know this is a little bit of an oddity, but somebody had put a picture now, today, in this, current time, of Bill Clinton and President Trump. Side-by-side comparison. And they're both 71 years old, evidently.
Really?
And Trump still looks somewhat robust for an elderly man. And former President Clinton does not. does not. He looks like somebody put him through the washer and hung him out to dry. It's horrible. So when you talk about Sanders being the oldest president, if he is actually elected, that blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Speaking of Bill Clinton, when I was researching that All Planets Direct for the last show, they found there was a list of presidents that had been born when all planets were direct, and Clinton was one of them. I thought that was very interesting.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Abraham Lincoln was another one. That doesn't surprise me. Clinton kind of surprised me. Andrew Johnson was another one. So, all planets, direct is not necessarily all a good thing all the time. It may be too much of a good thing all the time when you think everything's going to go your way and you're born that way and the energy just flows and flows and flows. At some point, the planet's retrograde and you have to work through it like everybody else.
Now, in this particular retrograde, is there anything particular that we should be looking out for? Is there anything that's going to hit harder than the other?
Well, it's in Pisces. It's in the sign of Pisces. And Pisces already is, a very nonlinear sign. It's very, sympathetic and creative and emotional and psychic to start with. So when you have the retrograde, that really is just going into the other side of our brains that are not the rational side. The rational side, and then where the retrograde is going inward, there could be a lot of aha moments. We could really get a lot of heightened awareness of ourselves and other people. That could be a really, really good thing. On the other hand, there could be a lot of, the shadow side of Pisces is like the victim mentality. There's the victim and then the savior. Which side are you on? So when people flap to that other side, maybe there will be some old wounds that need to come out to be healed, or maybe they'll be finally ready to come out to be healed. There could be a lot of interesting things. And this is a very, dreamy, kind of spiritual retrograde to be going through. So it's kind of neat.
Bernie Sanders is 77 years old. He was born September 8th in 1941. So he doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Go ahead, Heather.
I thought he was older than Trump. That's why I wanted to look.
Mm-hmm.
Speak up, Heather. I know I saw the look on your face. What were you going to ask?
No, I just thought it was really interesting what she just said, because I was making my tea and I heard something about you're going to have a greater sense of awareness of yourself. Like, that's exactly what my guides told me like 15 minutes ago. That's what came out of your mouth. So, and my moon is in Pisces. And I've recently been working through some really deep stuff. And it's like been shaken out and, it's...
Yes. That Mercury's going to go right over your moon, and it's going to like make that connection where the moon is, most of the time subconscious, and the Mercury is consciousness. And so when that comes over, exactly right. You're exactly right. Stuff's going to come out. So the key is don't go into the victim, you know what I mean? Because it would be easy to, or feel it and then let it go and say, okay, yeah, maybe I was a victim. Let it go and then move over to the next side. Okay, now I can heal that. I can heal that, and I can heal other people like me. That's cool.
Nail on the head right there. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay.
All the Pisces sun people, they're all going to be hit with this as well. That's going to be moving right over their sun, and that's the personality vehicle, like the ego. So it really depends on where their ego is, Are they going to have a tough ride? Do they have a big honking ego, or are they going to have a, you know what I mean, a nice healing transit there? So, yeah, it's just going to depend on where people are at.
Is this going to hit other people more than some?
Well, yeah, when it moves over a personal planet, it's going to affect you more. And everybody's got Pisces somewhere in their chart, but if it's somewhere random with no planets and it's not by, the top of the chart, the bottom, and the two sides are the, important angles. If it's not anywhere in those places, then you'll just have a nice little, you know what I mean? Oh, okay. Maybe an aha moment, maybe not, but you're not going to be as affected as much as if it hits, Heather and her moon. My sister is a Pisces sun. Yeah, I imagine she's going to be calling me up. Hey, what's happening? Oh my God, what's going on?
Okay, let me ask you then, as a Gemini, how is that going to affect any of the Gemini people?
Well, it's going to depend where your rising sign is, because that places all the houses in the chart. So if you have a Gemini rising, like I do, then it's going to hit right over your 10th house, and that's your career and how people see you. You have a Gemini rising, Heather?
I do. I'm digging this. Yeah.
Oh, so your moon is your moon in the 9th house or the 10th house? Which side of the...
Oh, I don't remember.
Is it attached to that line up there, that the top? When you get the circle, they divide it into 4. There's like 2 lines. Is it connected to that top line coming up?
Yeah, it's up. I think so.
Oh, we're going to have to do a reading for you one of these days. Yeah. So 10th house, that's career and how people see you in the world. So you might be putting a lot more attention to your career, or maybe clients are thinking about you, they're like drawn to you, like all of a sudden they're picking up your cards. They've had it for a while, but now they're picking it up and going, oh, okay, Heather, I have to get with her. Yeah. Or you can have ahas about your career. What do I want to do? Gee, thought I wanted to do this, but I really don't want to, or it's not feeding my soul, or this other thing wants to come in and now I have to make room for it, so I have to give something else up. and to make room. Yeah.
See, now that's here again. Most of what you just said is like, I.
That's okay.
So when you're talking about,
On.
um,
So no.
well, this is because I'm a guy. I am probably more analytical by nature because that's what men are. You know, the females are the caregivers. They're the ones that are in tune more with nature, with emotion, with things like that. And being a guy, I'm a nuts and bolts kind of person. If there's a problem, you fix it, you move on. But astrology to me, I know that it has the aspects of all the things that we do as a psychic because there is more that you're interpreting than just factual material. There's more that you're interpreting than just what you're seeing based on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And yet to me, I'm very curious about this entire piece of paper. To me, looks like a giant formula. If you get somebody's natal chart, and it looks like, you know, algebra gone wild or something. You know, and it's intriguing to me in that fashion. So when you say something rising and going and you talk the 10th houses, I'm like, okay, I don't have a clue. Not a clue. But I think that they're probably
reading
quite.
for you sometime.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See, it would be educational for me to learn about what's really going on, so that I could sharpen my awareness and sharpen my skill. There's no doubt about that. I'm sitting here. If you ladies have something else that you want to ask her before I kind of kick her into the next segment of what I want to talk about, right ahead.
Go ahead, Pat.
I keep hearing financially. Is there anything in here that we should watch for financially? Or I know you told us to get our taxes done before the retrograde.
Oh, right.
I told my next lady, I was like, the astrologer said,
yes,
taxes done for Mercury Retrograde.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Right? Because that's when you make mistakes. That's when you have to do that amended form, right? When you find that, you know, that receipt, that big $1,000 receipt that you're going to add on and, you know, to do the taxes, and you find it after the retrograde. Yeah. Yep, for sure. Well, this weekend coming up is the absolute best time if you haven't done your taxes yet, and if you're going to do them yourself, like on TurboTax or something. Saturday after 11 p.m. Eastern or a.m. Eastern time, Moon will be in Scorpio. Scorpio rules the 8th house, and 8th house rules, you know, other people's money, which, you know, it's taxes, even though it is our money, government's trying to get it. So it's, you know, other people's money. It'll be there all weekend long. So I'm going to do mine on Sunday. That's absolutely the best day. And I've been doing that for a couple of years, and I noticed that it just flows. It just goes. You know, you press, you know, send, and it goes right off. And, you know, it's accepted. So it works real well.
Okay, I've got another question. When this is happening, are any of the other planets turning around and moving back into a retrograde fashion as well? Or is it just going to be Mercury for right now?
Yeah, it's just going to be Mercury. It's going to actually do the retrograde, the actual full-blown retrograde until March 26th. And then it's going to start moving forward again, and all the planets will still be moving forward again. There's like that extra planets direct about 11 days until like April 5th, I think, is the first planet that turns retrograde. And I'm not sure which one it is. I have it on a piece of paper somewhere, but I think it's buried. They all start in April and May. They all start, all the major planets one after the next. So Jupiter will go, Uranus will go, Pluto go, you know, like all planets go retrograde all the time anyway, but we don't think about the outer planets because they go retrograde for so long, 5-6 months at a time.
Wow.
You know, they really don't affect us that much like Mercury does, or retrograde Venus or retrograde Mars.
Are there any other planets that work in conjunction with a Mercury retrograde that either make it worse or more tolerable or have other effects or impact?
Well, you know, so much depends on your individual chart, because if you've got, other planets in Pisces, like Heather, we don't, we know the midheaven is there, and the moon. If you had any other planets there too, it would affect, Mercury retrograde would affect those as well. So I can't make any sweeping, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is always going to happen.
Right.
Because it's going to depend. But, the Mercury retrograde is going to affect everybody somewhere in their chart, and it's going to hit each one of us differently, depending on where it's placed and different intensities, depending on, if something is there, the sun, the moon, our Mars, our Venus.
Because and here again, as Mr. Analytical at times, it makes me wonder how this moves about, how this all really starts to take place. Because if one planet is doing one thing and it has sway over a general area that you would label communication, and another planet does it rule over. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, every planet, when you say the 10 houses, every planet...
12 houses, but you mean the 10th house?
Well, when you talk about houses and a planet is in a particular house, how is... I don't even know a correct kind of question. Ladies, help me out. Like if we were to say, Jupiter, we're in your 7th house. Mm-hmm. What does that overall, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, the 7th house is the house of the other person who you're working out your life path with. So it could be your, husband or your wife, or it could be your business. I think most of you guys have your own kind of businesses.
Right.
So that would be your business as well. So Jupiter being in there would just bring good luck, abundance, many opportunities and blessings through, the other person or the business.
Okay, that makes sense. Because it leaves me going probably more questions that I have, answers for, or more time than what we have allotted for us. There's no doubt about that.
So question, what does this do to us if we're traveling?
Ooh, yeah, good question.
Good question.
You have to be, are you planning a trip, or do you mean like a short trip by car?
It's airplane ride to Texas.
Okay. When are you going to be going?
That's an excellent question. I know I come back on the 16th
of March.
Yeah, and the 6th I'm gone, so I think I'm leaving the 5th. Let me look at my nephew's email here.
Oh, are you leaving on a Monday or Tuesday that week, Bet?
The 10th.
Okay.
10th.
So you're
leaving on the
Sunday.
10th and you're coming back on the 16th. That's in the full-blown retrograde period.
I know. I just figured that out.
If you could, I would have a little carry-on that would have all your essentials in it, because in case your luggage goes to Tibet and you go somewhere else, at least you have, what you need, your medication.
I usually only have one bag, and I carry it. It has my CPAP and all my medicine and all my stuff.
Okay. The other thing is, double check. Did your nephew book the flight for you, or he booked it? Okay, so then he has to call up, the day before and make sure actually talk to somebody, and get the confirmation. We're on this flight. The time hasn't changed. Confirm the time, because that's something that'll happen. The time will change, or the gates will change. Like your ticket you might print it out and say it is at this gate. Well, they'll change it and put you at another gate, and you've got 5 minutes to get 20 gates down.
Well, thank goodness they do handicap assistance, and my understanding is they have to hold the plane for me.
Okay,
and
good.
That has been a mess in the past.
Mm-hmm. Right, when you have to navigate a whole big airport. But I would just get there as early as possible, as early as you can, and kind of like trying to anticipate some of these things happening. Okay, what'll happen if they change gates? What'll happen if this, and just ask your guides and your angels, hey, what do I need to know?
I always do.
Yeah. She always does.
They'll be giving you information. Hey, Kat, get moving. You have to get there early. Because there could be a traffic jam on the way. It doesn't even have to be at the airport. It could be something happening on the road. And with that Pisces, very dreamy, daydreamy, type of energy that we're all going to be driving under. I imagine there's going to be a lot of people like forgetting they're driving and they're texting. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of that can really, really happen if people aren't careful, you know?
Could you
Yeah.
imagine having to deal with Pat if she were grumpy going through an airport trying to catch a plane?
Michael. Yeah, I can imagine.
All I can think of is like that badger that walks along and goes, "Wah, wah, 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 wah." I love you dearly, Pat, but there are times that she does so well out in public that it's not even funny. Yeah, she
Yeah.
deals with the public in such a lovely way. It's just that one time out of 100 or out of 1,000, you just it's shocking. It's just shocking.
My
And
favorite saying, my favorite saying is, "I had the mistaken idea that I was the customer here. Where did I go wrong?" And then they either help me or I go off like a rocket.
Yeah.
she makes me laugh when she does that too, because it comes out of nowhere, you know. So seldom, but when it comes out of nowhere, it's like, oh my
He's
God.
such a pain. He's such a pain. I will get you, Michael. I
Oh,
know where
I'm very sure of that. I have no doubt about that.
Kelly, we need to talk. He's
Uh-huh.
picking on me again. Oh.
Okay, now you have been working with astrology for how long?
Since before I was a teenager with a book, you know, the old book in my hand, the ephemeris, and charting out, they would give you the blank circle, you know, and all the houses were equal because there wasn't a way unless you did logarithms to figure out the unequal houses. And you would just plot, okay, here's where all the planets were, and you just drew it. So,
Wow.
yep, long time.
In all of that time, to say it nicely, have you seen retrogrades that are better, worse, more astounding, or I don't know how to say it, that would be memorable compared to others?
Yeah, well, you know, Mercury's a personal planet, so everybody's going to experience it personally. It'll be in their own, you know, personal way. And I had a retrograde over Gemini. I'm a Gemini sun as well. I think it was 2014 there was one, because I was back working part-time at the library in the PR department, and I was in charge of proofreading all their publications for the patrons. And every 4 or 3 months there would be a huge publication that would come out, and there were 5 branch libraries, and they would have every program listed on the date and the time and this and that. It was my job to proofread everything, looking for, you know, commas and periods, misspellings. And I knew the retrograde was coming, and I said, man, I have to be so careful looking at this stuff. I have to take my time. I have to be grounded. I have to be present. I have to just read very slowly, and I have to make sure I catch all the mistakes. Well, my boss, she did the same thing with her, you know, copy, and then we'd get together after a week or two, we'd get together and we'd go over everything, and we would, you know, catch each other's stuff. I can't believe how much stuff I missed. I missed a whole bunch of stuff.
Wow.
And if I was my boss, I would have said, wow, did you even look at this? Because that's how bad. And I've proofread before. This wasn't a new job. I used to proofread when I worked at the newspaper. I proofread my ads every day for 12 years. So it wasn't like, oh, I just learned how to proofread, you know, or, oh, I was just goofing off. I wasn't goofing off. I had all my attention put on this stuff, and I still missed things. And that's how it was going right over my sun, right over the sun at the time. So,
wow.
Yeah,
Well,
it will do a number on you.
I just had cards printed up with Terra Turas on it. On the front, it's TerraTuras. On the back, it was TerraTiRus. 5 of us. 5 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like your mind knows what it wants to see, so therefore that's what it's going to see. Because we
right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, does it impact everybody the same way, to your knowledge?
No, it's going to be different. It's going to depend on what your own Mercury sign is, you know. And see, you're kind of at a disadvantage because you don't know any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Why?
But, you know, if you knew that your Mercury was like in an earth sign, like mine's in Taurus, so I have a really good memory. I remember everything. Everything sits right in there in that earth. So this Mercury coming in Pisces, which is water, is going to kind of like turn it into mud, right? So it's more emotional. It's the watery stuff. If you've already got a water sign, your Mercury's already water, you're going to have more water. If your Mercury's fire, you know, if you've got like a Sag Mercury, this water is coming and it's gonna put some of that out, some of that energy out. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So that's why it's really so important that people should have their chart, even if they don't like they don't need to know everything, but if they just had their chart for free, they could print it off, you know, from astro.com. And, you know, the icons are on the side. It'll tell you what it is. And if you just know, you know what I mean? One little thing like, okay, it's earth or water or air, that's going to give you a whole bunch of information about the energy.
I did my kids. Oh my gosh.
What's that?
So I did my kids after you were on last time.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up all my kids' charts and everything, and I was like, oh my goodness, God, what were you thinking? I can handle this. I don't know. Like, I don't think I can. Mm-hmm. My son is a Cancer.
Wow.
Cancer sun, Cancer moon. My youngest is a Cancer, maybe Gemini moon. Either way, 2 out of the 3 are in Cancer also, and I was like, what the heck? And then my oldest is she's Earth. She's Capricorn and Taurus rising, and I was like, oh.
Well, thank God there's some Earth there, right?
Thanks so much. Yes.
She's the rock in the middle of the ocean.
She is. We are so blessed. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
So, Miss Tammy, according to my chart that you did for me, if I'm looking at this right, my Mercury is in Virgo and my son's in Virgo. So is that going to be a mess for me the next month or so?
Actually, since that's all that earth, this watery Pisces, you'll be able to hold it. You'll be able to hold it. And actually, it's going to be a very fertile ground because that's where seeds get planted. You know, you plant a seed in the ground and then you water it. So I joked before and I said my stuff is going to turn to mud, but really stuff grows in mud.
Yes,
right? You want that. So this could be a fertile time for you. You know what I mean? See what grows.
Good.
I love that you said that. I have to say this to you, Pat, because while you were talking about all the traveling, everything I kept hearing was stay hydrated. And now you're sitting here saying fertile time, and it's gonna, I mean, as soon as you said Virgo, I was like, oh, it just felt really good and really sturdy and really fertile. So a lot with the water. So stay hydrated.
Yes. Yeah, because I squeeze my hand and I'm not hydrated. Question 2, how do you figure out the rising sign or ascendant?
Oh, that's done on the based on your exact time of birth. And I never calculate that because you've got the logarithms to do and they're not even real accurate, but any website that gives out a free chart will calculate that for you already. So your ascendant is Scorpio, right? It's some degree Scorpio, maybe like 15 degrees or something. It seemed like it was right in the middle, something like that.
It says ascendant Mercury, Scorpio up there. I know just about as much as I got enough to fill a thimble. People are always asking me like, oh no, I don't go one of the free spaces and look for.
You're head and shoulders above me, Pat. I'm like, I don't know anything, you know, and it is an interesting thing. And I think I'm probably like most of the rest of the population that's on the planet. We think about, oh yeah, I want to learn more about that. I'm going to go look it up. I'm going to learn something new. And 6 months later, we're like, oh, I meant to go do. It's just horrible.
Clear as mud when you do look it up because you still don't know what it is.
Yeah, you look at it and you go, oh my God, what is this? I'll never figure all this out. You know, cancel. I'll just, pay for a report. And that way I don't have to figure it all out.
it's kind of overwhelming when you first look at it, and there's all these lines and numbers and weird things. Like, I don't know. I just looked at the chart, like you said, it's exactly.
Yep.
See,
that told me which
that's exactly what I mean right there. Hold that back up, Pat.
That's Greek. I mean, I don't care how you look at it. That's Greek to me. And Tammy goes, oh. And I'm like, okay, is that good or bad?
It looks like a giant algorithm, mathematical equation.
I was excited. Hold that chart back up again, Pat. I want to talk about it. Hold it back up. Can we get a close up on that, Michael? Or can you put that in the big box?
Maybe. She has now made me technically challenged.
Her chart is so cool. You could just eyeball it and you'll see stuff just by looking at it. There you go. See that moon at the bottom? And see how all of the lines come up right out of that moon. It's like everything is connected to her moon, and the moon holds everything up. I was blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. That's so cool. I've never seen anything like that before.
Is that good or bad?
That's good. Her Aquarius moon is holding up everything out there. It's connected to almost all of the other energies, and that's a big place where you get all your intuitive ability, for sure.
I call
other places too.
I call Aquarius the Fruit Loops of the universe, and I tell people that's why I have purple hair. Of course, my son's Aquarius, and he's about as conservative as I don't know what.
Yeah. You know, any other moon down there would not be able to hold all that chart up. Man, if that was a Cancer moon, they'd cry. It would be too much for them. You know what I mean? They're too sensitive. You have to have that independence, you know, to hold all that stuff up. Like, I don't care what you people say. I'm doing my thing, and here it is.
Michael, that's not true, is it?
I'll pass.
No comment. He's going to comment.
I'll pass.
That's a strong moon right there. That's good. Yeah, because you don't let people bother you.
I try.
Yeah.
I try.
People relate to her in some awesome ways at times. And I see it happen all the time. You know, anytime that I'm around with her and we go out in public or anybody, they just kind of, you find them, even if they don't know her, you'll find them getting a little closer and a little closer and a little closer until they're right there and they say hi. And she turns around and off she goes and just starts talking. It reminds me very much, very early on, when Heather had started to talk about what she does. And she works in a car sales area. But the first time that she started to talk about it, she goes, well, I peopled today. And I laughed. You peopled? And she said, yes. And I'm like, okay.
It is my job. My job is literally peopling.
And that's it. And there are some signs, I am sure, that are much better at social interaction than others, you know. Some of us are introverts, some of us are extroverts. Pat's an extrovert all the time.
My husband used to say I was vaccinated with Victrola needle.
All right.
So was my mom.
What we're going to do is we're going to take just a few minutes for an intermission and an interlude, and we will be right back in a few minutes, again, talking with Tammy Manzo tonight. We'll be right back. Divine Awakenings New Age Emporium and Healing Art Shop. It's the largest locally owned and operated metaphysical retailer in the Sandusky, Ohio Tri-County area. Serving the Firelands region since April of 2014, they're pleased to offer a space that is welcoming, relaxing, and open to everyone. In the Emporium, You will find a variety of unique gifts, special events and services, as well as classes and workshops to soothe your mind, body, and spirit. If you're in the Sandusky, Ohio area, look for Divine Awakenings at 1006 Tiffin Avenue, Sandusky, Ohio. Their phone number is 419-502-9137, and you can find them on Facebook at /Divine Awakenings LLC. Coming back to you after our short break. It is again this evening with Tammy Manzo, and she's got a couple of other things that she really wants to cover about the Mercury Retrograde. So, Tammy, I'm going to turn this back over to you, and I'll ask questions kind of as we go along.
Okay, so I just wanted to point out that there's actually 3 parts to the retrograde, and some of the websites that are out there don't cover the 3 parts. They will just tell you when the full-blown actual retrograde is, and they'll totally ignore the beginning, the slowdown period at the beginning, and then they totally ignore I call it the deja vu kind, the time afterwards, because what happens, during the first session, we're in the first section now, Mercury slows down. Then it actually hits that point where the Earth passes it up, and that's the full-blown retrograde. And then once it stops that, and it kind of it's going to start moving forward again, although it doesn't ever actually stop moving forward, but it appears to. It starts to catch up. It's going to go over those same points where it kind of retrograded over. So that's the deja vu part. So that part, to me, and I've been watching this for many years and watching my own experiences and listening to other people, that seems to be the most difficult part, is coming back in with those left brain aha moments and things that we've learned, those tools that we've picked up when we're going into our inner world. We're learning things through, this miscommunication, through the mistakes, through meditation, through the aha moments. And then we have to take them in and integrate them into our life. So that period is actually from March 26th to April 16th. And after April 16th, then it will be totally done. It'll be back up to where it was when we passed it up, and it'll be done. It'll be clear, and everything's going ahead. So does that make sense?
It does. It makes an awful lot of sense. So in the very beginning, people would begin to feel strains in communication or strains in how things are getting done. And that's right before it really becomes a serious issue.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then you're saying the third part of that is the residual after effect.
Yep, the after effect. Yeah, we're coming back, and it's like the deja vu. You might see things at work like, oh no, this problem came up again. We thought we fixed it. We have to fix this over again. Or even in your personal life, oh my God, I thought I resolved this. I thought I am done with this. I thought, we're moving forward. Those kind of things.
Wow.
Will happen. Yeah.
Heather.
So the retrograde is not a time to start anything new, because you can see we're going inward. We're going inward to our, that nonlinear place. So you should just be doing everything that starts with the RE, like retrograde RE, review, reorganize, reevaluate, reassess, things like that. And that's when we go into our inner world and find out, like Heather, you might be, if this is moving over your 10th house, you might be reviewing your career. Okay, is this really what I want? Or making a list. Okay, reevaluating what's the pros, what's the cons, and you're going to do all this during the retrograde. And then when it starts to move forward again, then you take that knowledge in and go, all right, I want to go to my boss and I want to ask for different hours, or I want to ask for a raise, or I'm just going to quit. Who knows what'll happen, right? But yeah, that's when you take that knowledge and that experience and what you've learned and you move forward with it. I mean, because there's always a reason for these shifts in the cosmos. We're always supposed to be growing and learning and doing something different with it.
I have a curious question.
Yes.
Because we just started the Mercury retrograde and we're in the first phase, right?
Yes. Yes.
With how much of that would literally account for what Heather is experiencing right now while we're talking? Because earlier today, at the very last minute, her babysitter bombed out.
Oh.
Because normally she has somebody that watches her kids for her, so she can take the time to do Terra Turas and to be with us. Mm-hmm. So how much of this is actually showing in her life right now?
Oh, well, if you have a Gemini ascendant, you've got Gemini ascendant. Is there any planets on your ascendant there? Do you remember on that line coming from the left?
Oh, gosh, I don't remember.
Okay. Well, Mercury is your chart ruler, because Mercury rules Gemini and it's Mercury retrograde. So the Mercury people, and Pat, you're the Virgo sun, Mercury rules your sun as well. So we're very attuned, and Michael, you're a Gemini sun. Mm-hmm. So all of us sitting here right now are Mercury people. We're very highly attuned to Mercury people. We get that vibration big time, big time. I think I was telling somebody yesterday, I've got the Gemini rising and I've got the Gemini sun, and I can smell that retrograde coming from a mile away. I don't even need to know. I'm like, oh man, it's here again, isn't it? Darn. I'm always trying to outrun it. Hurry up, get all my stuff done before it comes, And then when the retrograde comes, you find you have to go back and redo most of the stuff that you've done because you didn't, you know what I mean? You didn't like it, or it doesn't make sense anymore, or it's no longer good, So it's this constant process that us Mercury people are doing. That because we're thinker, you know what I mean? We're the thinkers. Like your daughter's the Cancer sun. She's the emotional. Everything runs through the emotion. But for us, everything runs through the brain. So this Mercury retrograde is really important for us because that, that's the chip, the microchip that's running, running our program. Yep. So, yeah.
And the reason that I asked, and Heather, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Honest to God, dear, I did not.
Okay. She just brought me her blanket.
But it helps illustrate to people that don't know or have not made a connection with Mercury retrograde and what is really functionally going on. It helps them see cause and effect. This is what's happening. Here is a visible effect right now in front of their eyes. Mm-hmm. People might think that I'm strange, and I'm thinking I was just sitting here watching Heather, and I'm like, no, this whole thing right here is exactly almost a perfect example of what happens with Mercury retrograde.
Right.
I look behind me and all I can see is a baby like bouncing on the bed and moving pillows around. I'm like, oh, this is so professional right now.
That's exactly what made me laugh, because I saw the same thing, and I'm like, this is the example we need so people can get it.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
We just roll with it.
Yep.
Now somebody just dropped out. Now that has turned around. Heather, I'm going to have an issue with you here in about a minute. Because now we are at a point where I have to readjust everything. And I'll apologize to people because
retrograde. That's the retrograde.
It is. There's another perfect example of it.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, Michael, a lot of people, if you don't have your chart done, you could say, oh, I'm a Leo sun. This isn't affecting me at all. But you could have a Gemini ascendant or a Virgo ascendant. And this could be, you know what I mean? Mercury could be your chart ruler, and it could be playing havoc with you, and you just never noticed, or maybe you haven't learned the lesson. Some people don't ever pay attention to what's going on, in their lives. So, yeah.
So I'm looking at my chart, and there's absolutely nothing in Gemini. That's good, right? Right now.
Well, you got enough Mercury through your sun, through that Virgo sun, so you're good.
Clear as mud.
Oh, this again is one of those things that it's just like, okay. And this, what's happening on the screen right now, having to readjust everything, is again almost a perfect example. When Mercury goes retrograde, it will screw with many things. Now, if I'm not mistaken, not only is it communication or means of communication, but just like this just happened, it actually is effective on electronics a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Your cell phones. Do not buy a new cell phone plan now if you can help it. You know what I mean? Not a good time to sign up for new cable internet. Buy that new iPhone. If you can hold off until, middle of April, that would be the best thing to do. Because you could just get flat out lemons at this point. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You could just get off something that's not ever going to work. Or, the classic example, you guys are going to love this. My husband's not listening. He should know by now, right? I talk about Mercury retrograde all the time. Oh my God, we can't buy this couch now because it's Mercury retrograde. He's like, what? It's crazy, right? But he kind of, lets me do my thing. Last year or 2 years ago, he wanted a new laptop, and I said, oh my God, do not buy it now. It's Mercury retrograde. It's full blown. You're going to have a problem with it. You're going to hate it. It's going to explode. You're not going to like it. And he just went, well, it's on sale. I have to have it now. And I said, how much you saving? $50. $50 was a big deal for him. So you know what he did? He went and he bought it anyway. And he didn't tell me. How long do you think he had it before he sent it back?
2 days.
I have no idea.
It was, I think, less than a week.
Oh, my God.
Less than a week. He had to send it back. And he didn't tell me because he knew I was going to say, I told you so. And he just let it slip. He didn't even tell me he was doing it. And then it came up in another conversation, and I said, whoa, wait a minute. What happened? Are you kidding me? And then what happened was they couldn't even replace it with the same exact model that he had originally. So they had to it wasn't even an upgrade. It was kind of like a downgrade. So he actually got a downgraded model that he didn't even like as well as he liked the other one until it stopped working. So I'm telling you, this is a real thing. Somebody else I knew had bought a Dell computer during retrograde, could never get it fixed. She had to keep shipping it back to fix it, and it would work for a day or two. And I was like, you know what, just scrap that sucker and be done with it. It's a real thing.
People, and again, the things that we have just experienced on the show this evening. Yeah, and first, Heather's, and she told us beforehand that she was going to have possible difficulty, because it's difficult being a single parent and having children and trying to do a show like this. Which, God bless her, she does awesome most of the time. Everybody has issues. But to see her children kind of bouncing around, and it's bothering her because it's affecting her communication, and then for her, whatever happened that it dropped out, and which affected all of us because now I'm having to resize everything. This is directly Mercury retrograde in action. It's ironic because I don't think that we could have gotten a clearer picture of what's happening.
Right?
Now, here's a good question. Because you do psychic fairs, because you work with other readers, other intuitives, and everything like that, do you notice during Mercury retrograde, because you have, I want to say, a concentrated group like that, with that kind of awareness, that kind of capability, that kind of energy, do you ever notice that it becomes a more pronounced effect when you're around a lot of other readers and Mercury retrograde happens?
Oh, well, you know what? I haven't been at a fair in a long time during a bad time, because Jared from Divine Awakenings, he knows exactly intuitively like the best days to pick. And I'll look at the calendar and go, oh my gosh, how did you know that? Like, that would be the day I would pick as an astrologer. Like, this would be the best day energetically to have the fair. And he always gets them right on. So
Wow.
I don't even bother checking the book, because I know he's got it dead on. And it you know what I mean? So it's, for me, it's been a long time since I've been at a fair that had weird energy happening. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Did you understand that right?
Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of times that I know that, and I've been to fairs with Pat, they become very dynamic towards the latter half of the first day, and especially going into the second day.
During the retrograde?
Regardless, well, it's almost with retrograde, but also just a concentration of metaphysical energy all in one spot at one time. And I've noticed that it is not typically dependent upon crowd size, whether there's a lot of people or not a lot of people. It becomes how many people are paying attention and how many people are focusing and trying to utilize or maximize metaphysical energy at that time, that it really hits a scale one way or the other. You know, you go from watching people becoming very calm, polite, nice, to all of a sudden that entire area turns into grumpy, grouchy, I'm hungry, I'm a diva.
Oh, right.
And that's when I just want to go, okay, I'm going outside for a while. But it's amazing to watch, you know. Okay, you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about a natal chart and retrograde kinds of things. Tell me what you meant by that.
Yes.
And we'll kind of step into that.
Where I mentioned before, we were talking about Bill Clinton, about how he was born with all planets going direct. You know, he had not one retrograde in his chart that he was born in. That's very, very rare, because some years there are no time frames at all in 365 days that every planet is going direct at the same time. So there's, everybody comes in with, man, I've seen some charts. I've seen some with like 3-4 retrogrades. Everybody usually has at least one. I've got one retrograde. Yeah, I don't remember how many you had. I think just one, right? The Neptune retrograde. A lot of people have Neptune retrograde. I find that come for readings, and it's something about that, the Neptune, the spirituality that calls people to have a reading. Mm-hmm. But, Mercury retrograde Mercury is actually retrograde, about 33% of the time of the year. So about 33% of people that are born, have that natally in their chart. So, we talked before a couple, months ago, and I just very quickly pulled up your chart and looked at it very quickly. And the first thing I always look for is Mercury retrograde, because that's such a personal energy that people spend their lives working with that retrograde energy. And I married a man who has Mercury retrograde as well. If I would have known he's not listening. I would have known he had Mercury retrograde when we got married. I would have, like, oh man, this is going to be difficult. So
why do you find that to be difficult? As in,
everybody works differently with the Mercury retrograde, but with the retrograde, energy is turned inward. So that doesn't mean that these people can't, speak well or think well or learn well, but they intensify that energy and they turn it inward. So they really are thinking about how to improve themselves and what's the best way to word this. Like, they are like the very strict taskmasters of themselves, where the rest of us run through the world just, saying anything that comes to mind. And the retrograde people are like turning it inward and going, well, wait a minute, is this really what I want to say? Or how am I going to word this the right way? And they're very concerned with, the right way to say things. So. Wow.
That is a seriously interesting thing, because as you mentioned, Bill Clinton does not have a retrograde. Mm-hmm. And these are the things that you can point to with nationally known people and figures, people that you know personally, people in history, and you can say, look, it's not just this ethereal kind of thing. Astrology can look at past, present people that are notable, if I could put it that way,
Right.
and say, look, here's 18 different things, and here's 18 reasons why.
Right.
So astrology is not just something to grin at. That's one of the things that I wanted to definitely point out to people. When you're talking with an astrologer, be concise, because the more that you can talk with them, the more that you can ask them, the more they can tell you. Like any reader, they have a wealth of information right there in front of them, but they're not going to just blithely go strolling through your entire chart and telling you things, because there are some things you may not want to talk about. So for anybody that's having an astrology reading done by anybody, by all means, ask questions, talk to them, be open, be honest, because it is one thing that I have found: you cannot fool an astrologer with a chart in their hand. It's like impossible. Pat, what are you looking at, dear?
I was looking at my chart. Neptune's in the 11th house. Is there any kind of R or anything that would let me know?
Yeah, down at the bottom left of the paper, they give you all the planets, and somewhere there is going to be a little R on that listing.
Well,
But there should be an R by the planet too, but sometimes there's so much stuff in there you might not be able to make it out with all the lines and everything.
Yeah, I don't see an R anywhere because Neptune got kind of cut off.
Okay, let me pull up.
You'll have to tell me.
Let's see. I'm gonna go to.
I thought there should be a little R or something there to tell me.
I'm gonna go to Astro. I've still got it here on the website. I'll just pull that up real quick. And Michael, I think I deleted your chart already, so
That's okay.
What's fascinating me, because if you go to someone like Tammy or she does your chart, first time I went to an astrologer and she's looking at my chart and she's telling me stuff, when you were 6 or 7, you had it big, and then on and on through my life. And there was stuff I hadn't even thought about or known about. And they're telling me all these things. And I'm like, how do you know that? And she goes, it's right there. It's just right there. And I'm like, okay.
See, that's what I find most interesting, is the amount of information that you can actually look at during that point in time is astounding to me. And this is primarily by looking at, folks, there's no other way to put it. This is because planets are aligned at a particular place at a particular time, that this lady can stop and tell you a plethora of different information about your life simply based on what's in the sky.
Yep.
That's amazing to me.
Yes, there is a retrograde. You're at Neptune's 27 Virgo. It is the retrograde. It's retrograded, yeah. But that's the only one you have. So that's good.
I'm going to put an R there so I know it's retrograde.
Oh, you know what? Wait a minute. Talk about retrograde. You know what? I put your name up on my drop screen, and a different chart came up. Hang on. Oh my God. I was like, wait a minute. Wait.
It happens to her too, Michael.
Now, Pat, since you're sitting there.
Oh my God. You know what?
What?
Is this right? I'm seeing that you don't have any retrograde.
I'll tell you, is that good or bad?
Wow. Wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm in the right thing here. Is this really correct? Wow.
Now, Pat,
wow, you do not have any retrogrades at all.
Okay, in English,
nice.
Good or bad?
Well, you know what? They gave us a list of these people that like Clinton, some people, it depends what you think of Clinton. Abraham Lincoln totally had it all together. Helen Keller was another one that was on that list. Andrew Johnson, not one of the best presidents, I don't feel, but I don't know. It depends how you use that energy, right?
Okay.
I think you have a lot of energy, right? And that's good. You need it for what you're doing.
Okay,
Pat.
Pat.
That's very cool.
I'm going to ask you a question, Pat. You said that you went ahead and you went to see Tammy and you had a reading done, an astrological forecast reading. Tell me about your experience.
Fascinating. I mean, how she can look at all that stuff and know what's going on and telling me things. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I mean, how do you know that? And I mean, but to her, it's just like second nature. And she speaks English.
Yeah, right?
Astrology. Remember the for purpose? I mean, some of the astrologers we could really understand, and some of it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was fascinating. She gave me a wealth of information. I recorded it, of course. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but she helped me to understand a lot about why I'm like I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that really helps.
So it was not just a generic kind of thing.
Oh, no. She went through every house and explained to me what to expect, what probably happened, what's likely to happen, what to watch out for. I mean, it was fascinating.
See, I'm asking that because you've gone to her specifically and you had an astrological reading done. So you're able to comment on that so people can hear what your experience was. Now, I find it fascinating because here you are, a reader yourself, going to an astrologer. And some people might go, what the hell are you doing? If you're a reader, don't you have all the answers? Don't you have all the things that you need to know? Now, Pat, how would you respond to those kinds of people?
I tell people I wish I could do for myself what I am able to do for others.
It's really hard to know yourself. Mm-hmm.
And like if my kids come, my daughter wants a reading, she knows I do psychometry, she gives me her ring. Because if she's just talking to me and she says, Mom, what about? I can give her general, but if she gives me something she wears all the time and asks me, then I can give specifics. And when I would try to do tarot for myself, which I love tarot. I collect them. I've been thinning them out. I probably have 50 decks. They're beautiful pictures. I love them. I would have to sit down with a tape recorder and say, I am doing this reading for Pat Beers, and treat it as though I was talking to someone else, or I was not going to get anywhere.
Yep.
Now, Pat is the only one that I have found that can ever read for themselves and to do so accurately, and for that very reason, because she treats it as reading for another party altogether.
And I've had, Sandra Lee Serio, I don't know if you remember her.
Oh, yeah.
But I used to work her fairs, and she would come to me, and I would say, Sandra, blah, 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 blah. And she'd go, Pat, you know I love you, but you're crazy. It's not in my chart. Or blah, 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 blah. This is so exciting. It's gonna, and I go, and she'd come back to me. I see her 2-3 times a year, and she'd come back to me. How do you do that? How do you do that? I was so sure, or I was so sure it's not going to happen. And, interesting. Well, can you read for yourself, Michael?
No.
Because we see what we want to see.
And if we treat it as
someone else, we're okay.
I cannot remain objective enough to do so. Not for myself. Now, ironically, and Shelley would be able to tell you the same thing, when she and I first got together, I was able to look and see 2, 3, 5 years down the road and plan accordingly. Since then, I've shortened my sight to 6 months to a year. After that, so many things change. You get the broad strokes, the broad dynamics. But to look at myself and to try to read for myself, I get headaches. I get nauseous. It's because I'm fighting with what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, I don't like what I'm hearing or I don't like what I'm seeing, and I
Not
know
what
that I
you're
can't
saying.
change it, you know, but at the
Right.
same time, it's like, damn, you know, but I can't do anything about it, and I don't want to hear what I'm telling myself,
Right.
you know, so I stopped. I don't even bother. And I've told people, they say, well, do you have somebody that you go to? Ladies and gentlemen, sitting on the panel, Reverend Pat Beers is my go-to person.
And
Period.
he's not always happy with what I tell him.
Oh my God, no. But
And
I
Tammy, can
listen.
you? Yeah, go ahead, Michael. I'm sorry.
But I listen. I may not be happy with what I hear, but I will listen to what she's telling me. Go ahead, Pat.
Tammy, can you read for yourself? Can you?
Well, not tarot, but with astrology, it's easy because it's so cut and dried. I can see what's going to be going on. I can see where Saturn's going. That means I know there's some hard work to be done there. But the good thing about it is I know there's an end to it. You know, there's always the cycles and a timing. So that's a good news. And I give that to my clients right away. Oh, this will be done in a year, or, you know, you're halfway done or you're almost done. It's like, oh, thank God, you know, at least they know that it's going to end. And you could be pretty much exact about it too. When that planet moves, that's exact, right? Um, but yeah, you know, when you see the stuff in the chart and the transits, you still have so much free will, you know, like, you know, you could go to a reading and hear something and then you could make up your mind, oh, I'm not going to do that bad habit anymore because the reader said something, and you could change your mind and you could, you know, live your life a different way. I can look at my chart and say, uh-oh, there's some, you know, some stuff happening here. I can do something differently. And, you know, the lesson isn't as hard. So, yeah.
That's got to be a unique kind of advantage
Mhm.
in a reading, being able to tell more or less a time frame.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, Pat, I'm going to assume we have rough ideas, and we get kind of like road signs that say when you start to see this, what you're experiencing is going to be either done or pretty much over, you know, so start to relax. But we can't really come extremely close in saying, you know, time frames for us are difficult. There are times that we've got it, and it's
Yeah.
right to a day. You look at a calendar and it's right there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, but most of the time I think a lot of readers have a problem saying 35 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree, Pat?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they will show me like the pull a page calendars where it says
Oh.
July 10th, you know, and there's only one date. Other times they'll flash a whole month at me,
Mm-hmm.
and I can tell you that something may happen, you know, and I have a feeling it's going to happen at 7 o'clock at night. It doesn't happen until 7 in the morning. Or I
Right.
will tell them I can be off exactly a year to the day. I never know when I tell you whether I'm talking to this year or I'm talking 2020.
Right.
See, for me, I'm much the same way. It's where I look and it's like turning pages in a calendar. And there are times that, okay, I want to turn the page and it's like, and it's glued and I can't turn it. Okay, so we're talking this month. And then I'll ask, well, where in this month? And I get this big red line that'll fall on a Tuesday or a Thursday, the third Thursday, and it tells me when it's going to stop. Well, okay, if that's when it's going to stop. See, I go about things in such an odd way, I think, compared to most readers, because I'm an argumentative reader with my spirit guides and things like that. You know, I'm a Gemini. I want to fight. I want to learn.
Jack on high.
It's true, and Pat has read for me, and she has seen that many different times, to where she'll tell me something and I'll grumble about it, and she'll go, "What?" And thankfully, we know each other well enough that I'll give it to her, and she'll write back at me. But
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because when you said that you can see or tell somebody, and for you with astrology, it's more of a definitive,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's constant. Would that be a correct thing to say?
It's constant.
Yes, that you are able. over multiple readings to be able to tell people time frames of things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you go to astro.com, you could put in any time. You could go back, 20 years. You could pick that exact date. And I love to do that for myself. I know when things happen to me, and I'll go back just to like test the theory, and I'll look and see, wow, where everything was. You can see it exactly, so the hindsight works, the foresight works too. And I stopped moving ahead in my timelines. I used to look ahead for years, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that anymore, because I'm missing the now. But you can go forward in time too and look and see things that are going to happen, eclipses and other things that are going to move you along. So it's really cool.
That's almost a scary thought for me, to look forward in time.
Yeah, it is kind of scary. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because like you said, anybody that has foreknowledge of an event or something that's going to happen will either struggle to achieve that event or struggle to not get anywhere near it.
Yeah.
They don't allow a natural course of events. And what they find anyhow, at the end of the day, the universe is going to have its way. Right. People say, people make plans and God laughs. It's true.
Right.
It's wholeheartedly true. We have, okay, this is an odd question for you. Do you believe in more of a destiny, or do you believe more in a free will? As in, are our lives already mapped out?
Yeah.
So to speak.
When we come in with the natal chart, those are all the gifts and talents and the challenges that we've earned for ourselves through our past lives. So we've created our birth chart. We can't come in on any other time than what is there. So, if someone comes in with a lot of hard squares or a lot of Saturn with a lot of hard work, and they've been negative throughout all their lives, they can't now come into this lifetime with, all this Jupiter and Venus stuff. You know what I mean? If they've been negative all their lives and non-believers, they can't come in with different kind of energy. Right. So I believe that our life is just about coming off of that old karma. Your chart is your karma, and you come off of it. And as the planets cycle around and you get older and older and older, you learn to work with some of these energies that you've carried in, and these blockages and these talents that you've carried in, and you learn to get off of that wheel of, the astrology. Or some people are so 3D, they are tied to that wheel. Like, man, when something happens, boom, that full moon comes, oh my God, they're drama. But when you're on a soul evolving on your soul mission, these full moons don't get you anymore, because you've cleared all that stuff out. You've cleared, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Let all that stuff go. So the destiny is that we're all going to be evolving. We are all here to make some changes and soul growth and life experiences. How are we each going to react to that? I don't know. But we're all here with Trump, right? So we're all going to react different. Right. We're all in the United States at this time fighting these battles. Are we going to put up the wall? Are we not? Are we going to, accept gays in our family or not? These are the lessons that we're all working on right now. Some of us are going to get them better and faster and let that stuff go. And the rest of them are going to be sitting there fighting these battles over and over and over again. So, wow. I don't know if that answers the question. But...
Well, it does. Here's another odd one. And I'm full of odd questions. How do you deal with people that blame their astrological chart for their poor choices?
Yeah, no. No, yeah, it's like those are the victims, those are that victim mentality. They blame everything on their chart. What they've actually done, they've created that chart. If they've got, some hard aspects in there, that they've done that to themselves, like if they're a negative person that never believed in anything good, over the course of past lifetimes, they just keep attracting the hard life in. So these people now in this lifetime that are poor, are sick, or, they're being whatever is happening to them, they've called that in over because of their own belief system. So they're going to keep blaming the chart. Oh, the full moon, that made me do this, and my Neptune makes me do drugs and want to drink. And
So
that's the shadow side. Yeah, that is the shadow side.
People actually try to blame that kind of material on their astrological chart?
Yeah, well, people want to do it with full moons all the time. Oh, the full moon did it, or oh, they made that. But what happened was this stuff had been building up with them for the last month. Some kind of issue had been building up. They needed to speak up and say something to their boss or their husband or their kids or whatever, or their friend, and they didn't do it, and they didn't do it. And then when the moon came, depending on where it was, like Pat, you just had a difficult full moon, right? If the full moon hits them on the right spot, then oh my God, I just let it loose and I told my boss off and now I got fired and I blame it on the full moon.
True. Very, very true.
Fortunately, there's not a lot of people that I have as clients that do that. Those very, very 3D people that are not hardly aware of anything, they're not on a spiritual path, they just don't come for the readings. Because what I do is that spiritual kind of soul thing, like some people just want to know, oh, when's my true love coming in and all that. And, you can see that in the chart as well, but I don't get those people. I get the people that really want to do the healing work and want to know why am I like how I am and how can I shift this out? I want to be happy. I want to move my soul. So, yeah.
That's kind of an awesome thing all to itself. Pat, do you have any other kinds of questions for Tammy? Because we're going to get ready and wrap our show up. We're almost out of time, believe it or not.
Not a question, but when I talk, I consider it more a roadmap. And she tells me where there's going to likely be a detour.
Mm-hmm.
Or just be aware of this. There's a nice big pothole up there. And if you know it's up there someplace, you'll start watching for it and therefore you won't hit it.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Do the work before the hard thing starts coming. Do the work and get it done. And if there's nothing worse than the transit's coming and it's hard and people just dig in, they got their head in the sand and they're digging in. And I'll tell you what, they think they might escape it and that planet moves on, but it's going to come back around. And when it comes back around the next time, you will wish you had taken care of it before, because it'll just be harder. Because that's what our soul wants us to do, the work. This is what we're going to do right now for this amount of time, and then we're going to move to the next thing, and this is what we're going to do now. Next year, we'll do something else. And that's how we're guided by source, prime creator, whoever, runs your cosmos, goddess, God.
Yep. And that Pat and I were just talking about that earlier. There are many different things that you could say or name for a higher being. And she and I both agreed, we are not here to tell you, as readers, you're going to call it God, or you're going to call it Jehovah, or you're going to call it Jesus, or you're going to call it Muhammad. It does not matter what your belief system is, because we're working with you on a very particular kind of level. Whether you have a theological background belief, or whether you have more of a spiritual belief, or whether you have more of a Wiccan belief, it doesn't matter. We're talking about predominantly the same thing, higher power, without a doubt. Well, Tammy, if you would, tell me, how can people get in touch with you if they were looking for an astrological reading or a consultation or things like that? How can they get in touch with you?
Awesome. I finally got a Facebook page going. It is called North Node Venus Astrology. And I have some services listed there for charts. You could get a natal chart, or you could get a solar return. And a solar return would be a reading for each individual year. Once you have your natal chart done and you understand what the natal chart is, the solar return kind of overlays on top of that every year. And so you get a different flavor and a different spice every year. So those are the two things that I offer. And if you just want to email me at northnodevenusastrology@gmail.com, and you can get more information too if you like to do that.
Elyria, Ohio, is that the one that it is?
Yeah, that's my home. Yeah. And I
Okay.
do the readings on the phone, or if you want to come, like Pat came in person, and you could bring a recorder. But if I've got people all over the states and different countries that I work with, so I like to do it on the phone because Turbo Bridge will record, and then you'll have it as an MP3
Fantastic.
recording.
I was just putting the link in the chat room, and I'm going to attach that as well to Facebook. And I wanted to make sure that people know how to get in touch with you and how to get a consultation or to set a time up to be able to talk with you. Tammy, it has been awesome. I appreciate you taking time this evening. It's so much information. So much information. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you are somewhere still on track to begin more of doing a show for yourself, correct?
Yeah, you're gonna record it for me,
Yes.
right?
Yes. That was one of the things. I haven't had a chance to catch up with you now for a couple of weeks, and I knew that you were ill, and then everything started to spin a little
Yep.
bit.
Yep.
But here's, for people that are listening either live or if they're listening on the podcast, here's what we're going to do. Tammy and I are going to get together. We're going to record a show for her. She'll post it on her Facebook page. We'll post it on Terra Turas, and then we'll be able to turn it into a podcast as well. So we're kind of going to be sharing her astrological show with all of our viewers and all of our listeners. So this is an extremely interesting thing for me, because now not only do I get to record the show, but I get to learn as I'm going along. So I'm really excited about that.
Good. Yeah, me too.
And you and I are going to be talking more about that. So people either watching or listening, again, look for it kind of in a quasi kind of way over the course of the next 2 weeks. I'll make a big announcement about it. And then we'll start doing that. Also, for people that are in the chat room or listening on the podcast, Reverend Pat Beers has started her own show. She's got one done. We recorded another one this evening. You can catch it live on the Facebook side. It is also on podcast. And again, if you're listening on podcast, you can, oh Lord, I think that we are now up to 6 different podcast areas. The biggest one that we have finally been accepted to was iTunes.com.
Wow.
So we are on iTunes. We are also on Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spreaker, and TuneIn. We are waiting for an acceptance from Amazon. And then after tonight's show, this will make our 5th show that we have. We will be able to upload to iHeartRadio.
Wow.
So this is something that's growing. So for all the people that are watching or listening, we're adding content. Just like Pat, just like Tammy, I'll be on there myself. Heather will be starting to add some material. We want to grow our metaphysical family and what we're doing. And this is all the beginning stages of what we're going to do. So, again, within the next couple of weeks, Tammy, you and I are going to definitely be getting together and working on your show. Pat's show is already, the second one is done. I thank you so much for taking time to join us tonight. This has been...
Something?
Oh, go right ahead,
Can I
Pat.
add something, Michael? Please, when you talk to Tammy, have an open mind. We all have all these things in our head about what we think astrology is, and maybe we've been to other astrologers, but I cannot emphasize enough that she speaks English to us with the astrology. She explains it. If you don't understand or you get that look on your face, she goes, okay, let's do this. So please just be an open mind, be a blank slate, and listen to what she has to say. You can judge it later when you re-listen or whatever, but she's wonderful. And I thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is awesome. And that's a great way to close our show. Folks, it has been a wonderful evening. Educational for me. I hope educational for a lot of other people, because that's what we are here at Terra Turas is to do, is to help bring education about metaphysical items, topics, and different things to anybody that wants to take a listen. So until next week, I hope everybody has a great weekend, and we will see you again next week. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.